This happened back when I was 15. Every summer, my dad and I had a tradition, just the two of us, a weekend of camping. He'd always pick a new, remote spot where we could fish and just disconnect from everything. That year, he chose a secluded area in the Appalachian Mountains. No official campground, just a flat clearing near a small creek where locals occasionally camped. To get there, we had to drive 3 miles down a narrow, rocky dirt road. The place was perfect. No cell service, no other campers. Just me, my dad, our 2 tents, and total silence. The first night was exactly what I expected. We fished until dark, cooked over the fire, and talked until 10 p.m. My dad always made these trips feel special, like we were the only 2 people left in the world. But the second night, something happened. Something that changed everything. Something that, to this day, makes me wonder what exactly we saw out there. We had been asleep for maybe 2 hours when a sound jolted me awake. A scream, a woman's scream. It wasn't a call for help. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated terror. It was coming from deep within the woods. I sat up instantly, my heart hammering against my ribs. The scream lasted about 10 seconds. Then it stopped abruptly. I heard my dad unzipping his tent. He whispered, "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," I said, my voice shaking. "What was it?" He was silent for a moment. "I don't know. Stay in your tent." We both listened. The forest had gone dead silent again. About 5 minutes later, it happened again. But this time it was closer. Much closer. Like it was coming from just beyond the tree line at the edge of our camp. My dad stepped out of his tent and called out, "Hello? Is someone there? Do you need help?" The screaming stopped instantly. Total silence. My dad shone his flashlight toward the trees. We waited. For 15 minutes, nothing happened. Then I heard his voice, but it sounded different. Terrified. "Son, get out here, but move slowly." I crawled out of my tent. He was still pointing the light in the same direction, but his hand was visibly trembling. "Look, there, between those 2 large pines," he whispered. I looked where the light was hitting. At first I saw nothing, just shadows. Then my eyes adjusted. Something was standing there. A figure? Taller than a man? But definitely not an animal. It was standing about 50 yards away, but in the beam of the light, its silhouette was clear. Its body looked wrong, emaciated, way too thin. My dad's breathing became heavy. "What is that?" We watched it. It didn't flinch. It didn't move. Then my dad spoke. "We're leaving. Right now." We threw our essentials into our bags. My dad kept glancing back at the trees. The thing was still there. "What if it's a person?" I asked. "Maybe they're hurt." He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Humans don't stand like that," he said, "and they don't make those sounds." We scrambled into the truck. My dad turned the key. The engine died. He tried again. Just a hollow click, click sound. I looked out the back window. The figure was gone. Then we heard it. Something was tapping on the roof of the truck. Slowly, deliberately, right above our heads. We both froze. My dad tried to open his door. It wouldn't budge. We hadn't even locked them yet, but the doors felt like they were being held shut from the outside. Then the scream came again. But this time, it was right outside the window. And it didn't sound human anymore. It sounded like a mockery of a human voice. Like something trying to imitate the sound of a woman in pain. My dad whispered, "Run on 3. He counted. 3? The doors suddenly gave way. We bolted. We didn't look back. We ran for over a mile until the sounds faded into the distance. We came back the next morning with a Ranger. The truck was fine. It started on the first try. But our campsite, it was decimated. Tents shredded. Gear scattered. And on the ground, there were strange markings. Deep grooves in the dirt, like claws had been dragged through it. The Ranger said it was probably a bear. But bears don't lock car doors. And bears don't mimic human voices. We never went camping again. This happened to my girlfriend Emma and me last September. We'd been dating for 2 years, and I wanted to do something special for our anniversary. Emma had never been camping before, so I planned this romantic weekend trip to a secluded spot in the Smoky Mountains. I'd been to this campsite once before with friends. It's about a 2-mile hike off the main trail, next to a small creek. Beautiful area, completely private. I thought it would be perfect for just the two of us. We hiked in Friday afternoon, set up our tent, made a fire, cooked dinner. Emma loved it. She kept saying how peaceful it was, how safe she felt being so far away from everything. I remember thinking this was exactly how I'd imagined our weekend would go. Just us, under the stars, completely alone. But we weren't alone, and by Saturday night I realized that isolation isn't always romantic. Sometimes it just means there's no one around to help you when something goes wrong. Saturday was perfect. We hiked during the day, swam in the creek, had a picnic lunch on the rocks. That evening we built another fire and just talked until around 11 p.m. Emma fell asleep in my arms by the fire. I carried her to our tent, zipped us both into our sleeping bags, and we went to sleep around midnight. I don't know what time it was when I woke up, but something had pulled me out of deep sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening. Emma was breathing softly next to me. The forest was quiet, too quiet. No crickets, no wind. Then I heard it, the sound of our tent zipper. Very slowly, someone was unzipping our tent from the outside. My heart started racing. I reached over and gently shook Emma awake. She started to speak, but I put my hand over her mouth and whispered in her ear, "Someone's outside. Don't make a sound." The zipper continued its slow journey downward. Whoever was out there was taking their time, being deliberate, like they wanted us to wake up, like they wanted us to know they were coming. The tent flap opened slowly. A man crawled halfway inside our tent. I could see his silhouette against the moonlight. He was big, thick shoulders, baseball cap pulled low. In his right hand he was holding a knife, a large hunting knife, and even in the dim light I could see something dark on the blade. Blood. Fresh blood. Still wet. The man looked directly at me. His voice was calm, almost conversational. "Don't move. Don't scream. Don't do anything stupid." Emma was pressed against me, trembling. I could feel her heart pounding. The man crawled further into our tent. Now he was close enough that I could smell him. Sweat. Dirt. Something else. Something metallic. "You two picked the wrong place to camp," he said. "This is my spot, has been for years." He held up the knife so we could see it clearly. The blade was covered in dark, wet blood. "See this? This is from the last people who thought they could camp here without permission." Emma made a small whimpering sound. The man's head snapped towards her. "What did I say about making noise?" He moved the knife closer to her face. "You want to know what happened to them? You want to end up like them? I had to do something. This psychopath was going to kill us both." I grabbed Emma's hand, and in one motion, rolled us both toward the back wall of the tent. The fabric ripped as we burst through it. "Run!" I screamed. We stumbled out into the darkness in our underwear. No shoes, no flashlight, just pure adrenaline. Behind us, I heard the man cursing as he tried to get out of our collapsed tent. Emma and I ran toward the creek. I knew if we could get to the water, we could follow it downstream towards the main trail. We could hear him behind us, crashing through the brush, getting closer. "You can't run forever," he yelled. "I know these woods better than you." My bare feet were getting torn up by rocks and branches, but I didn't care. Emma was crying as she ran, but she kept pace with me. We reached the creek and started following it downstream. The water was ice cold, but we stayed in it to muffle our footsteps. After maybe 10 minutes, we couldn't hear him anymore. We kept moving for another hour, following the creek until we found the main trail. We hiked out to our car in the dark, drove straight to the nearest town and called 911. The police searched the area the next morning. They found our campsite completely destroyed, our tent shredded, our gear scattered everywhere. They found something else too. About 200 yards from our campsite, there was another tent, hidden in thick brush. Someone had been camping there for a long time. Old supplies, torn gear, and things that shouldn't have been there. Belongings from different people, like others had come through and never left. The police didn't tell us much, just one thing: don't ever go back there. And the man, they never found him. My name is Jake. I'm 29 years old, and I live outside Charleston, West Virginia. I've been camping since I was a kid. Every few months, I'll pack my gear and head into the Appalachians for a weekend alone. It helps me clear my head. I always go to the same spot. It's a dispersed camping area about 2 hours from the city, near a place called Cranberry Wilderness. Not many people know about it because you have to hike about a mile off the main trail to get there. I'd been going to this exact spot for 3 years. Same clearing, same view of the mountains, same peace and quiet. I drove up on a Friday afternoon, August 18th, perfect weather, clear skies. I parked at the trailhead around 4 p.m., shouldered my pack, and hiked to my usual spot. When I got there, I noticed something immediately. Someone had been there recently. There was a fire ring made of stones that I'd never seen before. The ground around it was disturbed, boot prints in the dirt. I wasn't too concerned. Other people camp here. It's public land, but what bothered me was the location. This fire ring was positioned so that if someone was sitting next to it, they'd have a direct line of sight to where I always pitch my tent. I shrugged it off, set up my tent in the same spot I always do, made my own fire, cooked dinner. As the sun went down, I felt the familiar calm that comes with being deep in the woods. But around 10 p.m., something started nagging at me, a feeling. You know when you're in a crowded place and you can sense someone staring at you? That feeling. But I was alone, miles from anyone. I looked around the tree line. Nothing, just darkness. I told myself I was being paranoid and went to bed. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of my phone buzzing. I grabbed it and looked at the screen. Text message. Unknown number. The message said, "You're hard to find up here." My blood went cold. I sat up in my sleeping bag and stared at the screen. Who the hell was texting me? And what did they mean I was hard to find? I was in the middle of nowhere. I waited to see if another message would come. Nothing. I tried calling the number. It went straight to voicemail. No name, no message. I convinced myself it was a wrong number. Someone texting the wrong person. I put the phone down and tried to go back to sleep. 10 minutes later, it buzzed again. Nice tent. This time, I shot out of my sleeping bag. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the tent door. I shined the light in every direction. Nothing. Just trees, but now I could feel it. The sensation of being watched. It wasn't paranoia anymore. Someone was out there. I stayed awake the rest of the night, clutching my flashlight and a knife. The next morning, I packed up as fast as I could. I decided to cut the trip short and head home. As I was rolling up my sleeping bag, my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "Don't leave yet, we just met." I looked around frantically. The woods were silent. No movement, no sign of anyone. I stuffed everything into my backpack and started hiking toward the trailhead, fast. But as I walked, I kept hearing sounds behind me, twigs snapping, footsteps matching my pace. Every time I stopped to listen, the sound stopped too. Someone was following me. I started jogging. The sounds behind me sped up too. When I finally reached my car, I was sweating and out of breath. I threw my pack in the trunk and got behind the wheel. Before I could even start the engine, my phone buzzed. See you next time. I peeled out of that parking area and didn't slow down until I hit the highway. When I got home, I tried to forget about it. I told myself it was probably just some creep messing with random people. Maybe they saw my car at the trailhead and looked up hiking groups online to find phone numbers. I don't know. But 3 weeks later, I got another text. Same number. Missed the mountains yet? Then another one. 2 days later. I found something you left behind. This time there was an attachment. A photo. It was a picture of my campsite. The exact spot where I'd pitched my tent. But in the photo, you could see something I hadn't noticed when I was there. In the tree line about 50 feet away, there was a small shelter, made of branches and tarps. It was perfectly camouflaged. You could only see it in the photo because of the angle. Someone had been living there, watching my campsite, maybe for months. I zoomed in on the photo. At the edge of the shelter, barely visible, you could see the corner of a sleeping bag, and next to it, a pair of binoculars. I went to the police. I showed them the text, the photo, everything. They said unless the person made a direct threat or tried to physically harm me, there wasn't much they could do. Harassment charges are hard to prove with anonymous texts, but the detective did tell me something that made my stomach drop. He said in the past year, they'd received 4 reports of solo campers in that area, reporting similar incidents. Anonymous texts, feeling watched, photos of their campsites. All 4 people had one thing in common. They were regulars, people who came to the same spot repeatedly. The detective said, someone's been studying the patterns of solo campers, learning their routines. We think he targets people who camp alone and come back to the same locations. I asked what happened to the other 4 people. The detective paused. Then he said 3 of them stopped camping altogether. The 4th one, Michael Chen, he went missing 2 months ago. We found his car at a trailhead about 20 miles from where you were camping. We never found him. I haven't been camping since. I bought security cameras for my house, changed my phone number. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. Last week, I was walking to my car after work. It was getting dark. As I got to my car, I noticed something on my windshield, a folded piece of paper under the wiper blade. I opened it. It was a printed copy of the photo he'd sent me. My campsite, the hidden shelter, the binoculars, but this time there was something written on the back in red ink. I know where you work now. I looked around the parking lot. It was empty except for my car, but I could feel it again. That feeling. Someone was watching, then complete silence. If you go camping alone, change your spots. Don't be predictable, because in those woods, someone might be learning your routine, and when they're ready, they'll make their move. My name is Luna. This happened to me and my best friend Emma last fall. Emma had just gone through a bad breakup. I thought a girls' weekend in the mountains would cheer her up. We had never been camping before. We drove up to Shenandoah National Park on a Friday afternoon. We found a remote campsite about 5 miles off the main road. Small clearing, creek nearby, surrounded by thick forest. The ranger who checked us in seemed nervous. He kept asking if we were sure we wanted such an isolated site. We laughed it off. 2 city girls trying to prove we could handle the wilderness. We set up our tents around 4 p.m. Everything went smoothly. We made a fire, cooked hot dogs, took selfies. Classic camping experience. Emma was feeling better already. She kept saying how peaceful it was, how safe she felt away from everything. Around 8 p.m. as it started getting dark, I heard something. A twig snapping in the forest behind our campsite. Did you hear that? I asked Emma. She was scrolling through her phone. Hear what? Something in the woods. Probably just a squirrel. I listened for a few minutes. Nothing else. Maybe she was right. But 20 minutes later, I heard it again. This time from a different direction. To our left, then again from our right, like something was walking around our campsite. In a circle, I started paying closer attention. Every 10 or 15 minutes, I'd hear footsteps, always from somewhere different, always just out of sight in the trees. Emma, something's definitely out there. She looked up from her phone. What kind of something? I don't know, but it's been walking around us for an hour. Emma went quiet. She started listening too. We sat there for maybe 20 minutes. Nothing. You're being paranoid, she said. It's just forest sounds. But then she heard it. Clear footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, about 30 yards behind her tent. Okay, that wasn't a squirrel, she whispered. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward where the sound came from. Nothing but trees. Hello, I called out. Is someone there? Silence. Then we heard something that made my blood freeze. The electronic click of a digital camera taking photos. Someone was taking pictures of us. We both heard it clearly. We need to leave, Emma said. Right now, I agreed. We started throwing our gear into the car as fast as possible. That's when we heard voices, multiple voices, coming from different spots around our campsite. They weren't talking to us. They were talking about us. 2 females, early 20s, isolated site, no other campers nearby. Been watching for 2 hours. They're alone. Men's voices, at least 3 different people, all hidden in the forest. Emma was crying now. What do they want? I didn't answer. I just kept packing. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely fold the tent. The voices continued. Should we approach now? Wait until they're asleep. The brunette looked scared. Good. They were talking about us like we were animals, like they were studying us. We threw everything in the car, didn't care about organizing, just wanted to get out of there. As I started the engine, headlights suddenly appeared in the forest. Not from the road, from deep in the trees. Multiple sets of headlights, like vehicles parked in the woods. Vehicles we had never seen. Drive, Emma screamed. Just drive. I floored it down the narrow dirt road. In my rear view mirror, I could see lights moving through the forest, following us. We didn't stop until we reached the main highway. Even then, Emma kept looking back, making sure we weren't being followed. I called the park rangers, told them everything. The footsteps, the voices, the hidden vehicles. The ranger I spoke to went quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. You're the 6th pair of women to report this in 6 months. What happened to the others? 2 pairs made it out like you did, but 1 pair, we found their campsite destroyed. Their car was still there, but they were gone. Gone? Never found them. The ranger told me something else that still keeps me awake. We think they specifically target young women camping alone. They watch, they document, they wait for the right moment. What kind of moment? When the campers are most vulnerable, asleep, isolated, no witnesses. Emma and I never went camping again. We never even talked about that night until recently. If you're planning to camp in remote areas, remember that some people see isolated campers as opportunities, and they've been practicing for a very long time.